All right. Dr. Sam Amadi, Director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, joins me in the studio to look at what next after the controversial convention and if there is any hope of reconciliation for the once biggest party in Africa, the PDP. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Sam Amadi. Just like we discussed yesterday, they are saying from the Public Secretary the convention followed due process. It's correct. But then you had Muftwang, Fintiri. They don't agree with the suspension of those who were suspended, who he calls heavyweight. And I was explaining, if not now, when?
Well, I think two things. First thing is that the ultimate legal status or legality of the convention will be determined inevitably by the courts. Unfortunately, Nigeria seemed to echo Alexis Tocqueville's statement about the U.S. It says, no sooner a political crisis, arises than it becomes a legal crisis. So, all political crises end up becoming legal crisis and ended up becoming judicial, which is not the way politics should be. But that's what we're working to. So the court will clear that. But on the face of it, I think that looks like a valid convention. Now, flowing from that is the suspension. Two things can be said. One, the legality of it, also the expedience of it. In that interview, Ruben Amadi talked about why should it be now? And he says, why not when? The purpose of it is that maybe in trying to build a stronger party, you shouldn't be the one doing subtraction. Politics is about addition. So those are heavyweights. So if you subtract, you are weakening the party. So essentially removing them at this point, except there's a compensating value, which is that these guys probably are disorienting the party. I mean, I can see somebody in the party say, look, these guys have been holding us down. They are not for us. They have made it clear they're going to be for the president. And some of us who think that more than who wins election in 2027, the most important is to have a robust contest. Elections mean nothing if they're not competitive. So many of us feel that it looks like there's a pattern of weakening the other parties, whether by their own fault or whether government strategy. I mean, it's not good for the country. So people will say, you know what, if you're really committed to Tinubu's presidency, then exit, join, just like we're going to see some governors move. You move and join the ruling party and allow the party we left the space to reorganize. And it's in public interest that 2027 should be keenly competed. We don't want to have a show in that, because one, when you win election as keenly competed, then you are likely going to govern better because you know that there's somebody who is there to displace you. But when we create this, what seems to be a fait accompli, everywhere is rolled in. And people are talking about going to the center. So 36 states and FCT are in the center. Center doesn't make sense again. Everybody's in the center. That's not how democracy should be. So it can be said that removing these, expelling them, is to free the party from the claptrap of people who, for now, don't mean well for the party. Because if your party is going to run for election and you said you don't want the party to win, you are enemy of that party for that period. Because the essence of a political party in Nigeria, like a party like PDP, that has been in power for 16 years, lost power, it has no meaning except it really wants to fight back to win power. And so if you have leaders of that party who say, look, our objective is to make sure we don't have capacity to fight back, which is what Wike people have said clearly. Whether it's Fayoshe, they support Tinubu. He said, I'm going to support Tinubu. It's my townsman and a friend. Wike says, forget 27, we are for Tinubu. Everybody on that list have made unequivocal commitment to work for APC. You just can't remain in the PDP.
What does that even portend for democracy, that you have one of the stalwarts of another political party staying in the party and declaring that he's supporting the presidential,
of another party.
Assumed another party.
Not just saying I support, working very hard to make sure that person almost like gets 90% of the votes. The membership of the other party is useless. It's actually inimical. So no matter how well high placed, if I was a PDP person, I would say, look, if you see, we've seen people work for governments and play politically neutral. You can work for APC government, but you're not for APC. You are working for your party. But when somebody says, my job is to make sure that the enemy of my party wins election, then they have become a burden, a very bad burden to their party. And in my view, honestly, if I was a party member, I would subscribe to expelling those people, because they are no longer, until this electoral cycle ends, they are not going to work for PDP to win election. So they better exit, work for the party they want. Because, you see, the idea is we should head into 2027 with clear likelihood of competition. We shouldn't go to 2027 with a sense that it's a fait accompli. Because that will make the president not even work hard. Because if the president is anticipating a real challenge, he's going to think about, how do I please the Nigerian people? How do I build up my political capital? But if here everybody has joined, south, east, north, west, all the governors are the campaign, and the parties that exist to put up a challenge, whether recruiting new people, you want them to be all destroyed. You want them to be all collapsed to the ruling party. So in a sense, I think that the court will determine these questions, unfortunately. But from a policy, public interest perspective, what played out in Ibadan is good for the democracy, good for the party. If they can now sit back and say, okay, even if we are 20 people only in this party, how do we now institute a new beginning and move this party, look at our structure, make sure that in the future there's no one money bag who buys up everything. I mean, PDP has been very institutionally foolish, so to say, not individually, institutionally. Because when they lost in 2014, many of us said, go back and rebuild, forget who is going to be president. They always don't work until primary. Once primary comes, they start a party. Once election is finished, they do nothing. So it's self-inflicted harm. They latched everything to one man.
The chairman of the BOT said that.
Yeah, they bring money. Everybody who brings us money, it buys everybody, and they behave like morons for 5 years. Now they wake up. But if they've woken up, then it's good for Nigeria that we have 2-3 parties that are strong. Look at Labour Party. I mean, why should every party suffer the same problem? Look at ADC, and you saw Jumobi challenging them. So why should all the parties have no problem around mobilization?
Even NMPP.
It's always about leadership. And if you see those who are championing some of the conflicts over due process, whatever, they have ties or seem to have some kind of echo chamber of a particular center. So whether it is Labour Party, we saw the picture of Labour Party Abure and the FCD minister, they said they are politicized. I mean, why should a leader of a party that's in opposition be cavoting with the leader of a government they want on seat? So for me, this is a dangerous development that for the first time, we see a ruling party or ruling government basically fingered into so many of the crises, bedeviling the opposition. And look, beyond who wins election, it's only high as 4 more years if Tinubu wins. But the polity lasts, the dangerous president will last for decades. And so those who care about this country will say, you know what, we don't care about who wins. Process is important. We want to see competitive election. We want to see political parties that are coherent and sensible and working to win election, even if they don't win. I mean,
now, going forward, with the gale of defections, particularly from governors who assumed their office on a particular, or on the platform of a particular party, people voted for that party, not for the individual. Can this be stopped? What do we do going forward? Because I mean, there's the danger of one-party state, or supposed one-party state.
De facto.
And the governors just, in a way, doing what they like, forgetting the people who voted for or the party, rather, upon which they...
I think the ultimate solution to this is INEC, free and fair election, number one, and the Nigerian people and the judiciary. For example, if the judiciary take a judicial notice policy that, look, you know what, we're going to allow the parties to run themselves. So if the camp get away. So it's actually a good thing that these parties that are left, all the governors have leave the party, we now sit back and rebuild the party. I think that many of the governors are not popular, basically. I mean, many of the governors are taking decisions that the people don't accept. Now, everybody is fighting on, we control the state resources, structure. We talk about structure. Structure is just that, okay, we can rig election, we appoint. Look at the game over vice chancellors. The governors are now struggling to make sure that vice chancellors of federal universities in their zone, they appoint the VCs so that they have return officers who come and regulate. So maybe the new elect chairman will not say, you know what, we're no longer taking vice chancellors. In fact, I would suggest to him, let's use our staff. No more vice chancellors, because now that is the new gold mine. They go and pack their favorites as vice chancellors. We hear that some people spend over 200 million, 300 million to win that, because that's now the return officer will come from either of them. Now, if you free these parties and the governors leave, and the people who left behind sit back and build their party, you'll be surprised that in 2027 there'll be a lot of electoral surprises. Let's look at 2023. About 21 states lost the election. Former governors lost a senatorial election, okay? So former governors lost, in fact, Lagos lost, Delta lost, people who lost presidential election in their zone. So that the governorship moves is to create a sense of panic and fait accompli. Don't bother, you are conquered. In reality, if you allow PDP to exist and put this together and get a right presidential candidate, they can actually give this the ruling party very, very. In fact, many of the governors who are decamping, those who have done second term, the ruling party may lose elections in those parties. I can bet you, because people are not happy. It's difficult to rig election now through the ballot box because the accreditation, the beavers, INEC has actually improved the mechanics. So they're now using more scientific rigging. 23, maybe remove the password and upload and mutilate, then cut, knowing that you have a cut that is open and closed. They just dump it and go and done. But we can still close down that gap. And so if we do that, the result is that we end up having a situation where we can actually say that even if we decamp, the key thing here is allow the people to organize, allow the parties to exist, and allow free and fair. So in the next electoral cycle, no governor will think about the campaign, because you know that, look, as soon as you decamp, the people dish you and move on. The great thing is recovering the power of the people to choose. And that's why I'm a supporter of the parties being freed from machination from those in the center. If you are not in PDP, if you want to decamp and support Abolatin, but that's fine. But exit the party, let those who stay back have the space to
build their party.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Amadi, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, joining us on the question of PDP and its convention. Thank you so much.